Voice Radio.
Believe it.
Okay, today on Motivation Critics, guys, we welcome you to another episode of Motivation Critics with our host, Mareka Haynes, which is myself, and we have our special guest, Paul Padmore. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you. And I'm a special guest.
Yes, you
Yes,
are.
I'm special today. Amazing. Thank you.
Okay, so Paul also has a very motivational show as well. I listened to Paul's podcast, and you can tell us a bit about the name of your podcast and basically the background, basically on what you do.
Okay, so thanks for your lovely introduction, by the way. And yeah, just to give you a little bit of background, I'm from the UK. I'm from a place called Basingstoke, which is just outside London. But I do have strong roots in Barbados, where my family are from.
Oh, right.
So it's lovely to hear and see Mareka doing such wonderful things. But yeah, so I've got a podcast called My Perfect Failure. And the podcast is around, I guess, supporting people. So I guess where it stems from. So the podcast stems from the sort of the background. My background is my background is I work in digital advertising.
Okay.
And I've worked on the publisher side. That's been my background. So it's essentially working with publishers and helping publishers monetize their digital inventory. So that's been my background. But 2017, I decided to pivot, not out of the industry, but sit in a different seat within that. So instead of being on a publisher side, I was on a tech side. So what that looks like, that would be me as a tech person helping smaller publishers monetize their inventory.
Wow.
So the startup kind of like didn't kind of work out for a number of reasons. It didn't work out. And while I was going for the process, I was thinking, I wonder what happens to people. I wonder if this could be my sort of perfect failure, because you always hear about these noted people like Jay-Z, like J.K. Rowling, like Michael Jordan. They talk, or the media talks eloquently about how these people have had some sort of situation, but actually it's proved to be quite a pivotal moment for them, and they've navigated away and they've had success after. So anyway, that situation ended, and I sort of went into another job, but I still had this reoccurring thing about how people, how do people, if you're not a celebrity, navigate from their failures? Because if we perceive we failed at something, it can be quite isolating, and it can be quite traumatic, and we can almost stop in our tracks. So because I had this reoccurring theme in my head, I decided what I was going to do was to put a podcast together. This sort of took about a year for me to sort of have the courage to sort of put a podcast together. And because I love listening to podcasts, you see, but the idea of me being a front and hosting a podcast was, I guess, a little bit of fear there. So I had to sort of internalize it and think, Paul, stop being a baby, just do it. That's what I did. So I jumped on YouTube, researched, read, and put a podcast together. And that's kind of how it came about. And I guess sort of the real theme of the podcast is, so it's my belief that failure and success are interlinked. So people shouldn't focus on failure, should focus on the journey. And within a situation, if failure does happen, or we don't achieve the immediate goals that we set for ourselves, what we shouldn't really focus too much on that. We should focus on all the amazing growth that we've had, from point A to point B, regardless of, where we finish up. Think about the huge growth that exists and that we've had, not about the final result. If we do that, then we can tweak things, we can learn things, and we can achieve our objectives. And And just lastly about that is, and the show really is for people to, it's to support people that don't have maybe a family member they can speak to, a friend, a coach, or a mentor. It's about supporting those people so they can listen and they can get tidbits on mindset, on reframing, on imposter syndrome, stress, mental toughness, a whole raft of things. So that's like my long ramble about my perfect failure.
Well, I don't. That's not a ramble. What I would say is that to fit years of experience into 5 minutes is very, very hard. So
Mm,
that was um basically a bit of a summary of
yeah,
what you would have
indeed.
gone through to get to this point.
Mm,
And by no means it is not easy to get to a point where you are YouTubing and podcasting and on lives and being all confident. It actually takes you a while to recognize your value as a person. I recognize, and to pinpoint the reason why you're here, because a lot of persons are wondering, why am I here? Why am I still here? Why haven't I gone on? Because I'm tired, the bills are piling, um all sort of situations regarding themselves, their families are arising, and they're wondering, like, what do I do? I feel like I want to help the whole world, but I can't. And if you are in that place, well, not you specifically, Paul, but if anyone over there is in that place where they are wondering, how can I help a whole host of people? Just to let you know, the first thing is, you can't help the whole world, but you can help one person at a time. When you help one person to be motivated, when you help one person to achieve their dream, they in turn will touch somebody else, and it actually spreads like how viruses spread. It spreads like that because motivation spreads. So hence motivation critics. So this is not to be all excited and stuff, but that would be in there. And it's just really to allow persons to know that there are persons out there that care, that want you to know via their experience that there's someone that is watching you, that is willing to share their experience to uplift you and to help you to get to the next level. As small, as minor as you think it is, it really is. It really does count. So I consistently pay attention to your posts when it comes to the podcast. I may not be able to listen to all of them. Forgive me. Yes,
you got
because
you got a buffer to listen to as and when they're there forever. So there's no rush.
right. So, but I do listen to them from time to time, and then there's some interesting guests that you have on your show as well. I look at the names and I love spelling difficult names.
Hmm.
I love spelling difficult names. It gives me a thrill to see, well, I can pronounce like a German based name that's very
Hmm.
long, and I laugh. It might be a bit weird for others to hear that, but yeah. So English basically is my major. I love English. Math, not so much on the math, but you have to calculate. Um, my next question then would be, you mentioned how when you started the perfect failure and what led up to it, in terms of being a tech person and stuff. Um, Presently, as you watch over like social media and stuff, where do you see technology going within the next year? Because I can't even say 2 years. Every day it's evolving. Facebook is changing. Where do you see it going? At an advanced level or within a different direction? How do you see it?
Um, so just a little caveat. So when I mentioned tech, I was kind of like the sales piece of it. So in
Mhm,
terms of the sort of the doing,
mhm,
building tech, not so much me, but certainly as a sales person and talking to clients and whatnot around tech, our tech offering. So, but just in terms of tech and where I see it going, I guess it's endless. It's the tech has become a significant feature of all our lives,
mhm,
whether it be Facebook, whether it be Instagram, whether it be Twitter, LinkedIn. We use it every day. The physical idea of buying a newspaper, which is my background, that's
mhm,
ever since gone to a piece. I consume pretty much all my um, news information online. So
mhm,
I don't see there being any any downplay in that. I just see it increasing.
Mhm.
So from a business perspective and from a personal perspective, I think we just have to be more mindful that we need to sort of engage that. But also at the same time, I do think there are challenges with technology and the
Mhm.
advances with things like Instagram, in that I think people become too obsessed with likes and what they must look like and creating the perfect photo just to get likes and so, that sort of thing. And I think there's an emotional outpouring for certain people if they don't get sufficient likes, that sort of thing. So I think there needs to
Yes.
be an education piece around that. And I think, from my perspective, I'm not huge on those platforms at all.
Mhm.
So I do definitely do want to up my game on that, but it isn't a significant driver for me. It doesn't sort of, maybe that, I'm not saying this is a good thing, but it doesn't sort of, um, it it just doesn't sort of rule my life. So I think that, I would suggest there needs to be an education piece for people who are letting it rule their life and spend too much time around it, and potentially it might make them compare themselves to people who might have photoshopped images and whatnot, and it's kind of like not really,
Yes.
and it's not really authentic. So yeah, so I just think it's there, but I think we need to have a balanced approach individually to how
Mhm.
we consume technology and social media. And I think there's definitely a responsibility for the heavyweights such as Facebook and Instagram. And, in the UK, we've got GDPR. I don't know whether that's navigated to, maybe that's not come to the US, which essentially is that if we sign up to any website, we have to, or the website has to provide a facility that we as users consent that they can use certain information. So they have to be upfront with that. If they're not upfront with that, then there's quite a significant fine. I think the fine is that they get fined maybe 4% of their global turnover, which is
Wow.
which can be
A lot.
quite significant. Yeah. So yeah,
Mhm.
so technology is here to stay. We embrace it, but I think we need to sort of, you know, with a little bit of caution and education around it.
Yeah, I think basically what's happening now, and I acknowledge everything that you would have just said, because Facebook is doing it in terms of content as well. It doesn't have to be anything disruptive or like slander, but certain sizes of pictures and certain pictures they're saying, well, that's not the best quality for Facebook. Um, they put up something they think you're selling it because it automatically comes in regards to you selling stuff. If you put it like a flyer or stuff, it's like no. And then Facebook says, well, we will review this particular post and let
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So they're already looking into it because the world is changing and persons don't want their names be slandered or their pictures stolen and seen somewhere else. So a lot of that contributed to the whole content security type of
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
that I'm seeing Europe is doing and all over the world. So eventually, well, I think it's gone to everywhere as well because it's online. It's
Mm.
basically on a virtual world, and everybody's tapped into a virtual world. Now to comment on social media, I've had persons tell me because I'm basically in public relations and marketing, and I use a lot in terms of social media management, managing pages for businesses, and they're telling me, oh, well, that doesn't work in this day and age, not in a day and age with technology. And why I say that is because recently I joined with Circle of 99, which is the entrepreneurship company that's based in the US, and by way of virtually pushing that event, we were able to get persons to sign up. And it wasn't that we saw these persons in person to tell them, well, you can get a ticket because we had no physical ticket. It was more of pushing it via social media, being in persons' faces, always recording a video to really um, uplift or present the idea of entrepreneurship. And everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, but then when you look at it, what is your interpretation of an entrepreneur when you really look at it. So from there, then underneath my brand, or under my brand rather, I would host events when it comes to entrepreneurship, and then you'll see a lot about that. Our next event under Mareka Haynes and stuff, where it touches on social media management and how it works for you. You don't have to be engrossed in it, but I think what gives people a focus on, they have to be on it every minute, is the fact that for some platforms they make money off of it. YouTube, a lot of persons are YouTubers right now. A lot of persons, and sometimes it don't even make sense in terms of sometimes the things that they post. Sometimes it's crazy. Like, I saw a show where I cannot remember the name of the show, but it was you had to subscribe to this challenge where you let all sort of insects bite you and you withstand the pain. It's to see how much pain you can withstand. That was the American one.
Yeah.
It was interesting to me to watch because I am not all like grossed out by stuff. So I can watch it, but it's interesting to watch to see the mentality of these persons just to get like, you can get 10,000 US to let a snake bite you. Seriously. But the risk is that you die without the $10,000.
That's crazy. That's like,
Yeah.
it's, yeah, the world is made up, we're all very different people that exist in the world. And some people, you and I, don't see logic in that, but I guess there are people that would do that. And I guess there's an audience for that as well. So
they're the out of the box type of people that are for that. I am out of the box, but not all the way by the door.
Absolutely.
So to speak. I ain't like gone all the way across, but all of that in itself is strategy on social media, and we might find it outlandish, but people will pay attention to outlandish stuff. So our video might build up in terms of viewers over the couple of weeks, but within that one video will get 1 million hits because it's something outlandish. It's like, he crazy, but you stayed the whole 8 to 10 minutes to watch the whole video to see if he's going to survive. He really can survive. We don't even know if he's here today, but he survived that day. That's all we know. So I really want to encourage persons in terms of their life journey. And with mine started in terms of entrepreneurship full time, I might add. Started a year ago, 2019, when I was laid off of a marketing in a marketing job, and I was doing like, it was like subcontracting work for like big tech companies. Not sure if you call the names, but big tech companies, known software giants in America, all over the world, Germany, and pushing sales for them. And then all of a sudden, it's just as if something went wrong in the background, and they laid off a whole drove of persons. Now, as I was already taking like a course in like entrepreneurship, elevate entrepreneurship, via the founder of Carry Voice Radio, which is Aubrey, I was beginning to be mentally sound, because a lot of persons are saying, well, I good at here mentally, but no, you're not, because if a problem arises and you immediately stress, you're not mentally sound. And that's why I learned the hard way. You have to let the truth slap you the hard way. And that's one of the reasons why I did motivation critics, because I realized that there is a gap in between motivation and stress when it comes to a human being. That's it. We just need to close that gap. You may not always react in a very pleasant and happy way, but when you look at the situation, it's like, oh, that's a light affliction. Just that is nothing compared to where it was last year. That's nothing. I remember when I couldn't eat. I remember when I didn't have a job. I remember, you gotta remember the worst off things. I remember there's always somebody that's worse off than you. Look at the persons that are, I think it's Syria. They have to fight for food. You're somewhere where you can go to the supermarket and get food. So not to like compare in a sense, but to look at your situation as more fortunate and see how you can push it or move it to the next level. I find that two things persons not these days are entrepreneurship and social media management. And if it really works, both do work, because in our own right, we are entrepreneurs. via the venture that we're doing. You agree, Paul, or you don't agree?
Well, I I agree that. So I think entrepreneurship isn't for everybody. I think that
Mm-hmm.
if you've got that gene, that curiosity gene or that passion gene for something that makes you happy, and you're willing to go through the pain of setting up your own business, because the passion is obviously whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously within that you don't have the security of a 9 to 5. So you have to sort of go for that isolation and the pain. But so if if you're about that life, then entrepreneurship clearly is something that is for you. But I think there are certain people that I know
Mm-hmm.
that would run a million miles away from being an entrepreneur, because they just
Yeah.
the idea of having an employer, the structure is there, your role is perfectly defined, and you can go in 9 to 5 and do that. Then that world is, for a lot of people, is a nice and happy place. But I think for people that don't really like structures and stakeholders that say you can't do this or can't do that, and they have their own idea, and they've got that gene of curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm talking about you, by the way. So
I
if
was like,
you like, Mareka, then clearly, you've got wonderful things ahead of you. So yeah.
yeah. Well, you really have to push, and by no means is this easy.
Mm.
I get a lot of comments saying, "Well, you go, girl, good for you," but they don't know basically that regardless of the setbacks, regardless of persons that may get in the way when it comes to not believing that your vision is real, not believing that it would work. Um, my soul thought is to just keep going,
Mm.
regardless of what is going on. Just keep going, because if you keep going, you would pass all the garbage, you would pass all the opinions and comments. If you just keep going, you would just look back and see all the opinions, all the persons that thought that you couldn't do it, all the things that kind of try to impede and hinder you. You would just look back and see them behind you. They would no longer be with you or side of you or just
Mm.
there, because you kept going. If you stopped where persons were saying, well, that don't really work, I think you should try something else. If you keep restarting all the time, you would just be at that point, because you're restarting, you haven't moved yet. So I would just encourage persons to keep going when it comes to anything that they're doing in life. Sometimes you're not able to just cut out of a 9 to 5. And for an entrepreneur, is literally as if you're working 24 hours, literally,
Mm.
because your mind never stops going. And if you're curious, creativity then doesn't really stop in
Yeah.
your mind. Ideas are just like that. And sometimes you don't even know where they're coming from. But anyhow,
Yeah. But
um,
I think it's important as well to surround yourself with like-minded people that give you the
mhm,
right type of energy. So if you are an entrepreneur and you need your motivation to be, remained positive,
mhm.
it's that finding that network that can prop you up when you're having those, because we all have moments of doubt and sort of struggle. So if you've got the right type of network, then that will supplement you, and that will help you through those tough moments.
Yeah, because we cannot expect that via ourselves that we would just make it all the way to the top. We do need people as much as persons. I don't think it's the person themselves, but the attitude and the limited mindset that stops persons from engaging others. Like with you, if I knew that, well, you weren't very receptive, then I would kind of like ease off and wait. I would wait. I would ease off and I would wait and be like, all right, not today, probably tomorrow, when I think that he's smiling or I see
Mm.
crack a joke. But everyone is not receptive to other people because they've been hurt. One moment, they've been hurt too many times verbally, and I read it is more verbally than physically that people have been hurt. because you've been told stuff before anybody had ever physically does you anything,
Mm.
like a warm up to it.
Yeah.
And because you've heard that one word, you would never amount to anything, those sort of comments kind of get in. And I think we have to build a mental shield around those sort of negativity. We have to stop as adults being childlike in our minds, where we take on stuff that really isn't our struggle. I mean, sometimes that basically just the person crying out, or that's basically part of their pain, and letting you know about, oh, you don't give me nothing. It's like, is that their internal belief of themselves? Has someone told them that before? But I think that we don't have a lot of time to analyze stuff, or don't allow ourselves a lot of time to analyze stuff and to see that that person too is hurting. How do I help them? It may not be directly, it can be indirectly, where you say, well, I have a friend, they usually get on this way, can you like reach out to them? Don't let them know it's me, you just reach
Yeah.
out to them, see if you can help them. And you don't even have to let them know, but it's me that sent nobody. No.
Yeah.
It's just more or less to see them and know that, you know, well, I actually help somebody indirectly. Everything doesn't have to be shown all the time in terms of you helping people either.
I
I
agree.
don't think that go ahead.
I agree. I think it's, I'd rather help someone from afar than put it out there. It's a little bit disingenuous just to help people so you can drop it on social media and
But
let
that's how
people
it is
know.
via social.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's how it is.
I'm not, that to me is more about them, and the person is a sideshow.
Exactly. And via, I mean, this is just by way of example when you're speaking, when I'm speaking in terms of giving you examples, but via like events and via like platforms where you help persons that school leavers coming out of school to find their path, find their passion. What is it that you're passionate about? Because you're not giving them an idea, but you're looking to see what's in their head. A lot of young persons have ideas, have blueprints, so to speak, of businesses that they want to look into, but they're being told that is not a good enough business. We in Barbados, that cannot work. There are a lot of creative persons in Barbados, as is all over the world. But I think we have been, I guess people call it commercialized. I don't want to call it Americanized, but we've watched on at other countries from here, and we've kind of put them on a pedestal where they are, or they're the best, but we forget our own creativity. Not like being biased or anything like that, but we forget that every individual person, regardless of where they're from, Canada, US, Ireland, has their own level of creativity. Whether you're hands-on, whether you're good with words, there's some that aren't good with words, but they can set up something for you by their hands. Recently, that was last year, 2019, when there was I'm not sure if you're aware of the Buju Banton World Tour, when they had stopped off in Barbados. They had done I think 2 days of the event in Barbados, and I was so surprised to see like Irish people there and people from like Martinique. I was just like, they know that music. Like, I was so surprised. I was like, you know reggae? And I literally was so surprised that I went actually and asked them, you know reggae? And they're laughing at me, because it's like, why would we not?
Yeah,
know
reggae's
reggae?
global, man. Global.
Yeah. So it
Buju
is the
Banton's
show.
global.
Yeah. So it's the show where at that point where my mindset wasn't like, where are you living on the rock? Like that kind of mindset at that point in time, to know where it's like, all right, people's technologies there, they should know. But there's some people that really don't pay attention to social media and don't know of stuff. So we could mention shows and they'd be like, huh? Yeah.
So I guess everybody has a different interest. They have interest in different things. So some of my friends are, they're not interested in the podcast. They're interested in different elements of my life because, because we're all different. So, yeah. So I just wanted to mention, actually, just around technology and it being healthy, there's a really good book out at the moment called Outsmart Your Smartphone, which is about having a healthier relationship with technology. I think the author's name is Chicky Davis, and that's just because you mentioned about technology. That's it's really cool because it points out some of the ways that, or behaviors that, can compromise us when we're using technology, and some ways that we actually can fix that. So it tells you what the problem is, but also gives you solutions.
Yeah. And we really do need solutions. I think what we did is there was an ocean of technology presented to us, and we jumped right in without being able to have
Mm,
all the gear to swim. And it was like, oh, like, look back, and where's land? And you look around and there's no land because
yeah.
everybody just jumped headfirst into it. So it we have like 30 seconds, a minute. And I find a lot is geared across technology and not towards what a person can do. If you can look pretty on a camera and you can just talk a whole bunch of rubbish, because sometimes it's very rubbish, then you're accepted. If you're talking something constructive, most persons do not pay attention. But this is partly a motivation, and also in terms of life experiences, to shed some light when it comes to sales, shed some light when it comes to entrepreneurship as well, because I find people are like knocking those areas, and don't know the sweat and tears that persons put in behind these platforms to make their show a success. Editing, whether you edit it, whether you go in and do it yourself or someone else does it, it's time spent. And last week, it was a question where someone asked, "What do you do with your 24 hours?" And I was like, to think of it. So that's why these days, when I look at what I have to do, whether it be meeting, recording, whatever, I am like, did I do enough? Do I have time to rest? Because as an entrepreneur, you kind of forget about rest in between, right? So it was great having you today. I'm sure that you will be back.
Hope, well,
Pause.
if I get an invite, that is.
Of course, you do have an invite.
If I get an invite, I'm back.
Yeah. So make sure that you guys listen to Perfect Failure by Paul Padmore. He posts it often, and I tell him forgive me all the time that I am not able to listen to all of them, but I do when I get a chance.
And you know what? Thing about podcasting, they're there, they're in the ether, they're on the platform. So
Eternal.
I love different people's podcasts, and I don't get to listen to all the time because life does go on. But I
Yeah.
do get to go back and listen as and when.
Okay, so last question before I go. Do you have anything that you would have written? Any book? Anything? Have you ever thought of it?
Um, to answer your question, I haven't written a book. Would I like to write a book? I a year ago I would have said no, just because of the journey that I've been on, talking to amazing people like yourself around, motivation and the challenges that people face and
Mhm.
ways that we can overcome that, and supporting people that just haven't been raised around the understanding of success, failure, or ways in which they can aid their lives and support themselves when they're feeling a little bit downtrodden or have hit a roadblock. It has come into my thought process a little bit more over the last year, but
Okay.
but it's not something that I've written notes and I'm there yet. So I think it will be a process. So
Mhm.
yeah, so I guess watch this space. That's all I can say.
Yes, definitely. I'll be looking forward to reading a book written by Paul Padmore. It should be interesting. And thank you again for joining me on Motivation Critics. We will be airing every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Atlanta UTC time. And because of the time differences all over the world, you are in the UK, I am in the Caribbean. It is very interesting about the time zones. So, yeah.
Exactly. And lastly, may I say that they can check me out at www.myperfectfailure.com?
Yes, definitely, definitely. I'm glad you add that because I just follow it on like Facebook and YouTube, but you actually have the myperfectfailure.com, the website.
Indeedy. So it's there. I'm still working on it. So I'm still working on it, but it's not all the podcasts are there. But if they're looking to find a more comprehensive list of all the podcasts, I'm on all the regular platforms like Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, and
Wow,
iHeartRadio. All the
really?
yeah, absolutely, all the directories that you would consider the main directories. My Perfect Failure is there, so you'll be able
So
to
many
find.
means, right?
Yes, yeah. So all the, because I want the message to carry wide and
Mm,
far,
mm,
like you do, like with what you're doing. So you
yeah.
want to tap into anybody that
Mm.
would get some value from listening to it, as I get value from listening to you. So same thing, really.
Okay. All right. Well, that's about it. We are out of time. So
Thank you so much.
you're welcome. I will see you next time then.
See you next time, and
All right.
I'll save this
Yes, definitely.
and send it across.
Definitely.
I'll send it across to you.
All right.
Ha-
No problem.
have an amazing day, and absolute delight to speak to you at last.
Ah, thank you. And oh, did I forget to you Happy New Year? The New Year just gone so fast. We
I
are
know,
like
man.
15 days in. Oh my goodness. It's like June already. But
Six,
anyhow,
six we're actually 16, man. It just goes so
yeah,
quickly.
it's
But
fast.
but yeah, it does go fast. But you're making every day count, which matters. So you're operating
Yeah, yeah.
at the right level. So yeah, so it's an absolute pleasure to speak to you, and we will meet one day. So I'm looking forward to doing that, and we'll do it in Barbados because it's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice and warm there, and we can
Uh,
and
I
we
still want to experience the UK though, but yeah, I understand.
yeah, man, it's nice and warm, and we can have a Banks or rum and coke or something like
Oh,
that.
you remember Banks? Oh.
Course, Banks or Mount Gay. I like because what part of Barbados are you from?
Oh, I actually am from the Britons Hill area that is just under Wildy, just under Flagstaff. But Banks moved from the original place where you know it,
Mm,
and they're up the Newton side. Um, and then they have the Barbados Food Rum and Wine Festival,
okay,
and
when is that?
they've started it. I seen they started an event from the top of the island because they're doing it
Mm,
per parish.
okay.
So I'm seeing they're having one this weekend, St. Lucie, but normally it's in November, around November 21st to 22nd,
Mm,
like a weekend, a whole
okay.
weekend. And the mixologists come out, and it's really interesting. It's really
Okay.
with the same Mount Gay and stuff. It's really really interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I need to check. I need to experience that. So
Yeah. Check your calendar. Check your calendar.
got these crossed. Anyway, love talking to you. Love what you're doing. Keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank
And
you.
this will be with you imminently.
Yes, it will be recorded and put out there.
Yes. And when it goes out Friday.
Yes, Friday it will air at 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm not sure what time that is
Okay.
either. Yeah,
I can.
later.
So Eastern. That's US Eastern or Barbados.
Barbados Eastern, I
Okay.
think. Yeah, Barbados Eastern because the US would then be 8 p.m. when
Okay.
we're
Cool.
9 p.m. Yeah.
Cool. And lastly, how would I find it? Where would I listen to it?
Oh, actually, you would find it on caribvoiceradio.org.
Okay.
So caribvoiceradio.org. And as soon as you get onto the first page, you click the player and the interview will be playing.
Amazing. So I listen to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I better let you get on because you've got lots of stuff to do,
Yes, I
as
do.
always. But anyway, take care. Thank you.
All right. You too. All right. Bye
And
bye.
actually, can you send me your email address as well?
Yes, I definitely will. Yeah, I'll send it on the platform. Yeah.
Cool. Perfect.
Technology.
Or you can send it via Facebook if you like, because we've been using.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the
Okay.
platform.
Okay. Take care.
All
Bye.
right. You too. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Carry Voice Radio.
Believe it.